Hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar about the maritime inclusion into the EU ETS and EEX Environmental Markets, brought to you by EEX and our cooperation partner IncubEx. I am Christian Fleischer, Head of EEX Sales Environmentals, and today you will see presentations by Ellen de Vocht, Senior Political and Regulatory Affairs Officer, Stefan Löbner, Expert Environmental Markets, both working at EEX, as well as Martin Eichstätt-Krug, Managing Director and Head Global Markets and Clearing Germany at ABN AMRO Bank, and Dario Papst, Emissions and Energy Manager at ACT Financial Solutions, both presenting their intermediary access offerings to you. Now, before we start with the agenda, I'd like to let you know that this webinar is being recorded and will be available for download from the EEX Group YouTube channel very soon. Also, following today's presentation, we will be holding a Q&A session with all speakers, so please feel free to submit your questions at any stage during the webinar by the chat function on the right-hand side of your screens, and we will make sure to put your questions to the team once the presentation has concluded. That is everything with respect to introductory remarks, and we can now move on to the agenda. Next slide, please. So following the currently running introductory part, we will have Ellen providing an overview of regulation and shedding some light on EU decisions. This is followed by Stefan's presentation on carbon markets in general and the EU ETS in particular. Thereafter, I will be presenting the options to the access to EU ETS and EEX. And I'm especially pleased that I will be featured by Martin and Dario, who will present their two intermediaries, ABN AMRO Bank and ACT Financial Solutions, and they will both illustrate their services to you. Stefan will then take over again for a short wrap-up of the trading benefits and a short summary. And last but not least, we'll have a Q&A session in which we make sure that we answer all your questions. I am now happy to hand over to you, Ellen. Next slide.
Yeah, thank you very much, Christian. I'm very happy to kick off this webinar with shedding some light on the recent decisions made on EU level and how that went about and what exactly is the final decision. So maybe first starting with taking a step back and having a look, how did we get here? This takes us to July 2021, when the European Commission presented its plan on how to reduce emissions by 55% by 2030. This package basically reviewed every relevant energy and climate legislation and targeted the maritime sector in a number of ways, which hadn't been done before. And one of these measures we're talking about today is the maritime inclusion in the EU ETS. But there was also, for example, the Fuel EU Maritime Initiative, which set standards and was recently improved and will be very important in the decarbonization efforts of this sector. But we're talking about the ETS here today, so we're jumping forward to April 2023, just a few weeks ago, when all European co-legislators, so the Council of Member States and the European Parliament, finally signed off their deal on the ETS review. This was really the last step before it gets publicated and before it can start being implemented as of 2024. Important here is to say as well that this also paves the way for a number of implementing and delegated acts in which the Commission will write down detailed rules, for example, on auctioning and auction access, and on the Union Registry and how exactly Union Registry accounts will work for the maritime sector. So whilst we've agreed the overall picture, there's still some details to come in the next months. But on the overall picture that has been agreed so far, we can go to the next slides, which is a high-level summary of the main decisions made. There are some exceptions and caveats to almost all of these points, as is quite regular in European legislation, but that would take us too far today. But of course, we're happy to answer any questions at the end or bilaterally afterwards. So first of all, and very important basic, is that the maritime sector is added to the current EU ETS. So compared to aviation, there will be no separate type of certificates, and they are just added to the general cap of EUAs together with the energy and industrial facilities. So that's the first decision. Second is it's quite an ambitious scope of coverage. In terms of ship, the general rule is that vessels from 5,000 GT onwards are covered. And in terms of geographical scope, all emissions from voyages between EU ports will be covered, and 50% of voyages which start or end in the EU coming or going to a third country port. So that, according to the Commission's calculations, would lead to about 78.4 million allowances or tons of emissions being added to the cap. Very important third point is the timeline. As I said, it will be included as of 2024. But compared to these industrial sectors, there will be no allocation of allowances for free to this sector. However, to allow a smooth start, there will be some kind of phasing until 2026, when less emissions than reported have to be complied with. But free allocation by the member states will not be done. And then finally, the final big decision here, and a topic which was much discussed during the past year, is who exactly will be responsible for buying and surrendering and paying for these emissions and these allowances. Because this sector is a very complex one and a global one. So in the end, the final decision is that who is responsible is the shipping company. Now that's generally seen as a ship owner, but it's slightly more complex than this. And the definition is not exactly the same definition as in the MRV regulation. So it's a really important first step for sectors, for companies in this sector to actually check the definition and how this applies to each company. But then this ship owner, this shipping company, does not always have the final say about the emissions of the ship because it doesn't operate it, doesn't decide on the fuel, the speeds, and other parts. So therefore, this shipping company will be allowed by national law to claim reimbursements for the costs of the ETS from the entity that actually makes its final decisions. So that's quite a rare thing in the ETS setup. This formally brings another actor to the stage of the ETS. So this, as I said, I'm happy to answer any questions afterwards, but this for the big picture. On the next slides, just a first practical example of how we get from these legal definitions and scope and decisions to actually what has to be done now. This is, again, a high-level overview of the decisions that have been made. So in 2023, we included shipping company. As said, it's important to figure out the definitions, which company is this exactly, and who their national authority is, to whom they have to report, and where they have to set up a registry account. This, as I said, the registry regulation will be reviewed, so important information on that is still pending, but it's an important first step that should be figured out as soon as possible. Then, of course, during the compliance year of 2024, the shipping company will monitor and report among all the emissions of its ships. Can be multiple ones, can be one, can be hundreds. So in order to be able to surrender the correct amount of allowances reflecting the emissions of all these different ships in September 2025. And then, of course, after September 2025, follows enforcement by these national authorities. Of course, we've skipped quite an important step here, which is how to get these allowances in order to surrender them in September 2025, and also to how to manage price exposure coming from this having to surrender and perhaps passing on the costs to the shipping operators. This can be done continuously through different routes and different strategies, which is exactly what my colleagues will talk about in the next 45 minutes. So I will hand over to Stefan to kick us off with how exactly to do this.
Thank you, Ellen. This was a great overview about the political landscape. Hello to everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar today. I will now tell you a bit about the EEX offering in general, but especially also in carbon markets and, of course, the EU ETS, what is the core or the focus of today's webinar. So as many of you know, our roots are in the energy business, mainly the power market, gas market, but also we are a long time in carbon, but we are also a leading marketplace for shipping derivatives. Yeah, and therefore many of industry players from the maritime industry are already connected to EEX and are aware of our offering. And we have a long proven track record in carbon markets. So the slide you see right now is showing our offering in EEX Group. So I started already with EEX in 2007, and even before, in 2005, EEX introduced secondary market products for the EU ETS already with the start of the EU ETS. Since 2010, we also organized first primary auctions, or the first allocation of allowances to the markets. And since 2012, we are organizing also the primary allocation for the European Union and other member states here. So in 2018, we increased our offering in the North American market through our group company exchange, Nodal Exchange. So there we are offering also markets for REGI, WCI, Washington ETS, just recently launched last year, but also other environmental markets for REGs, RINs, and other products as well. In 2021, we also started to cooperate with the New Zealand Exchange and provided them expertise and software to operate the auctions for New Zealand for their compliance market. And in the same year also we launched at EEX a market for the German fuel ETS. So it's kind of comparable to the coming ETS2, but just locally here in Germany right now. And in 2022, we also introduced products for the voluntary carbon market. So these products are listed at Nodal Exchange in Washington as well. So, and as we have long track records in carbon markets, we have been in touch with players from all over the globe interested in developing carbon markets here. And this includes, for instance, China. We have MOUs in place here with several exchanges from the ground and other players from all over the globe here. I haven't mentioned UK ETS yet. That's something we have on the radar. It's a bit more complex due to Brexit and regulatory questions, but this is something we are planning also to introduce as well. So, and altogether we can say we have at the EEX Group, so the broadest set of environmental contracts worldwide in terms of size, number of contracts. So now we can jump to the next slide. The next slide will give you a product overview just focused on the EU ETS market. So, and we have, I've mentioned earlier, primary market and the secondary market. So primary market basically means this is the first allocation of allowances to the market. And the secondary market is a continuous market. So normal continuous markets operated from the morning 8 until the evening 6 p.m. And there are different products offered, spot, futures, options, including the relevant spreads. I will say a few more detailed words later on that. On the slide, you can also see that we have aviation allowances, EUAs and EUAs. So this might be confusing as they're coming from the shipping industry, but in the past, it was the case that aviation allowances were available dedicated only to aircraft operators. This is not anymore the case since the start of the phase 4 of the EU ETS. Since then, general allowances, EUAs, as well as aviation allowances are fully fungible. So both types of certificates can be used by all kinds of operators. Could be power plants, could be industry, could be maritime, could be aviation. So you can use everything. And there's also no validity date. So we have the full flexibility. We have also a global trading audience. So we have more than 800 trading participants listed at the EEX or admitted at the EEX from 41 countries right now. And there are also a number of indirect clients from all over the globe. So we really a truly global company, not only in terms of the structure of the company, but also in terms of market participants. Yeah. So for all these products, we offer a physical delivery procedure. So carbon markets are physical markets operated by our clearinghouse ECC. So all major brokers are connected to our offering here. And also we provide connectivity to all major ISVs. This could include, for instance, Trading Technologies, Trayport, or other solutions. So also it's possible to receive a same-day delivery if needed. Usually it's delivered T+1 on the spot market and the auctions, and T+2 or expiry +2 for futures. And yeah, we're operating a number of different systems and tools to operate smoothly the different markets and products here. Now we can move to the next slide. Here we'll say more few words about the primary market. So as said, we're operating the primary market for the EU ETS. We started for Germany in 2010, and since 2012 we were also selected as the common auction platform, and now we are having 100% market share in the auctions after Brexit, and all 100% of the primary allocation in the EU ETS is allocated through EEX. So on this picture here, you see different platforms. So it's mentioned here, EU auctions, Germany, Poland, and also UK. That might be a bit confusing. So legally, we have different platforms, but from a participant point of view, they are all the same. So the rules are similar. There's a European regulation called auctioning regulation, providing the framework for all auctions. The products are the same. There's also no label for certain member states, label for EU, Germany, or Poland, that are really truly European allowances. Could be used by all European installations, and therefore it doesn't matter for you in which auction you would participate. Yeah? How is the auction set up? So for general allowances, we operate the auctions on 4 to 5 days per week. And we have a bidding window starting at 9, ending at 11 in the morning, Central European time. And the usually auction volume, depending on the platform, is between 2 to 2.5 million per auction. So the aviation allowances are also auctioned through EEX every couple of Wednesdays. The size is smaller because the aviation market is also smaller, so it's roughly about 1.8 million allowances. And for all auctions, like on the spot market, you trade or buy in the auction today, delivery take place tomorrow. Yeah. So, and we have already conducted more than 2,500 auctions successfully. So it's daily business and business as usual, and a source very much appreciated by a number of market participants regularly participating in the auctions. Now we can jump to the next slide, where I will say a few words about the secondary market offering. Thank you. So the secondary market already launched in 2005. There we have 18 years experience. So there we are offering spots and derivatives products. So spot is traded today, delivered tomorrow. Futures traded today, there we offer different expiries. You can trade or hedge your carbon price risk up to 9 years ahead in terms of offered expiries in the futures market. So this includes a number of different expiries. We have monthly contracts, quarterly contracts, and the most liquid contracts in the EU ETS market are the December contracts, also called yearly contracts from time to time. So, and they are delivered 2 days after expiry. So, and also it's possible to trade options on the future. It's also derivative instrument used by many clients. So the platforms are fully browser-based, if you like, different connectivity solutions, automized, also possibility to use algo trading through TT, for instance. You can also trade time spreads in different contracts. For instance, if you hedge in a futures contract and would like to roll positions to a next year or a different year, if you don't need the allowances for the respective compliance cycle of this year. So we have the full flexibility. Yeah. And the question, of course, might be which product should I use here? What is of most interest for my business? So this is, of course, up to you how you organize the business. So many clients, also in other industries, try to hedge their exposure to certain risks, to their input factors here in advance. So and you might also be interested to hedge your exposure to the carbon price risk, and therefore futures markets might be of interest for you as well. And by nature, the carbon market, the EU ETS market, I would say personally, it's a futures market because, as Alan has explained earlier, you can basically consume or produce carbon dioxide today, but you have to hand in the allowances only in the September next year after the change compliance cycle here. Yeah, and therefore it might be of interest for you to trade futures in order to optimize your cash positions, your cash demand. Yeah, and maybe some of you are already active in the futures market, in the freight markets, or in other businesses as well, other commodities, and therefore you're used already to futures. That's something that might be of interest to you. Also possible, of course, to hedge via spot. This might be a bit more cash demanding, but up to you. That's all I would like to say about the secondary markets. Now I would like to hand over again to Christian, who will tell you how you can access EEX and the EU ETS market in special. Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stefan. Yeah, you have now been told by Alan and Stefan why the shipping sector needs to act, who in particular is required to act, and where this can be done, i.e. the EU ETS. Let me now shed some light on the access options as they are seen from the shipping sector company perspective. And these are various in my eyes, or from our perspective. There will be various options for you, but they are conditional to a few criteria that I will explain in a bit. The list of point of accesses is visible in the middle of that slide and starts with the subsector bilateral trading, which is comprising any off-exchange trading that can be done between the market players themselves. But this market is also served by intermediaries, brokers, and especially also banks. Yeah, they can all serve these markets. And halfway through to the exchange offering, we have the indirect offerings. And this subsegment is mostly direct market access or order routing, and is served by mainly banks, but also professional access providers that sit either directly at the exchange or behind banks and provide indirect offerings for you. Also, brokers may be active in that segment for sure. And the third main point here is the exchange trading itself, yeah, the direct market, direct exchange access. That comprises, of course, the order book trading and the clearing of transactions that have been arranged by our brokers of exchange here and are cleared at the clearinghouse of the exchange. And I think it is worth to mention some important aspects because some criteria are decisive in the way to choose for an access option, because it may seem plenty of options, but they are all conditional to some criteria that are make a certain access point appropriate or unavailable. Yeah. So let me go through the list here. That is first and foremost the distance to the EU ETS, as it takes a lot of effort to get to know that market, to learn that market, and so on and so forth. That is effort to take from the potential market participant. There's also, of course, decisive criterion, which is the amount of EUAs or amount of allowances that need to be traded annually. That is important in the way to choose an access. Yeah. The third criteria is KYC criteria, because a lot of options to access the market is depending on KYC, and this may impede also the access options for the potential market player. And of course, fees is also a very important point in the choose or in the selection of an access option. And this determines as well the viability of the different options. As Stefan already said, the sensitivity towards cash aspects is also really decisive. So Are you okay to block cash in spot positions, or do you would like to save some more cash and act on the futures market? That is really also a decisive criterion you have to look on. There are some more aspects to look on. That is, for example, the preference for cleared activity, but also the access to the union registry itself, and the effort you have to undertake if you access the market by the different options. Next slide, please. This is a short overview about the options you have if you would like to get a member at EEX. There are 3 different membership models you can look on, and that is starting at the top, the full membership. And this comes along with all EEX products. They are all tradable except this CAG VTP market. That is a gas market, but comes along with the price of 37,000 euro per year. Maybe the second option is more viable for potential market players from the shipping sector. That is the environmental and emerging markets membership that comprises all ENVI products. So the primary auction, secondary market, spot and derivatives, but it comes also along with some other markets, that is agriculturals, but more importantly, the freight products. So all that combined together in that membership model comes also at a price of 5,000 euros per year. And if you decide only to choose spot products, meaning spot secondary and spot primary market, the primary auction, then it has a kind of light version price of 2,500 euros per year. The third option is maybe also the simplest access option, that is the auction-only membership. It provides you the access to the primary auction only. That means you can bid in the auctions, you can buy and procure allowances, but you are not able to sell certificates at EEX there. This comes along free of charge. And yeah, with that, I will switch over to the next slide, where I will present some requirements to meet if on the way to get admission at EEX. As you see, there are 3 pillars, and I start from the left to the right. There is the clearing banks, very important on the way to get admitted. In the middle, you see the ECC, which is our clearing house, and on the right side, EEX. You see a little arrow there as well. All points from left to right are prerequisite for the next point. So it is a prerequisite for the ECC that you have a clearing bank that accepts the clearing for your admission, and for EEX, it requires the ECC membership to get admitted. But starting from the clearing bank perspective, there are currently 24 banks recognized by ECC as a general clearing bank member. You have a respective bilateral agreement with the clearing bank, and which is, however, not part of the ECC and EEX admission, but is of course bespoke and or bespoke commercial framework, but individually agreed with the clearing bank. You will find all the contact details to the general clearing members on the ECC website. Secondly, that is ECC. That requires a trilateral agreement between ECC, you as a client, and the clearing bank. It requires as well to run through a KYC process, and the clearing bank needs to accept the clearing of these contracts. And on the right side, and lastly, we see EEX as the exchange. There, proof of some aspects like personal reliability, qualifications of the management, liable equity of at least 50,000 euros, and one examined trader, a technical connection, and of course the ECC membership is required to get a member at EEX. With that, I conclude the EEX part of the access options to the EU ETS, and would like now to hand over to ABN AMRO Bank. Over to you, Martin.
Christian, thank you very much for the nice handover. So appreciate the opportunity to present the carbon solutions at ABN AMRO Group. So the 3 optionalities to exchange the EU ETS market Christian described, so the bilateral, the DMA, or via exchange. So ABN AMRO Group provides all the three options. So what you see in that overview on the left side, so product-wise, we're offering in the carbon space access to the spot market. That includes the primary and the secondary market. We offer forwards, futures, and repos. The last two mentioned via our ABN AMRO Clearing Bank. So in particular, what we currently on the phase of rollout, that we offer clients that they just provide us with an order, either to take their purchase demand into the auction or their buy and sell demand in the spot secondary market. We will take that order, execute that at the exchanges, send a deal confirmation, and the next thing they recognize is the settlement in their EU ETS register. We, of course, see the demand based on several conversations, based on forwards that you purchase today, and based on the complexity of your subsidiary and corporate network. It takes some clients to collect the money, so we offer them a purchase now, a settlement later. So that can come with no or limited margining based on the exposure of the forward, and we use our main contract ISTA for that, and we are on a path to have that product available as of Q1 24. On the right side, you see our solution via our subsidiary ABN AMRO Clearing. ABN AMRO Clearing is a independent bank with own bank license, and the only business they do is clearing the business of clients. So ABN AMRO Clearing is a GCM at ECC. So and via our DMA offering, so using the exchange membership of clearing to access the market, or via your own membership, you have access to the full product suite of EEX. And next to that, we offer via clearing a repo solution. So think of the compliance cycle. You start in the shipping sector to purchase in January 24, and then the surrendering of the certificates is in September 25, so that's a long period. So we have the special solutions to finance that position for you. So I would like to go to the next slide, please. So it's, of course, the shipping sector in itself. I think, no, correct. So the shipping sector itself is a core of our corporate strategy. So as you see in the overview, we are considered to be a larger player in the European shipping financing market. So it's really core at our strategy. So in the shipping segment, we are leading full service bank. We are a trusted advisor, which acts as a one-stop shop. So via our relationship manager, you can access the full product suite designed for shipping at ABN AMRO. And we offer via our expertise and our network a direct access to the relevant parties in the shipping sector. So if we could go to the next slide. You see, we have a strong expertise in ship financing and lending transactions, as well as in the M&A space in shipping. And we have a dedicated and experienced team across Europe. So we have colleagues present in the harbor of Rotterdam. We are at Oslo. We are at Athens. And from Rotterdam, we cover Hamburg and German harbors as well. Next slide, please. And of course, if you're wondering who you could contact at ABN AMRO Group to discuss possible solutions going forward, we have on the left side Remco Jonkind, who is our managing director in the shipping coverage. You find his email there. So he is always a good start to find your way through ABN AMRO when it's about carbon. We have Vincent van Lith on the clearing side. He's our European head for power, gas, and carbon clearing. More than 20 years experience, especially in the clearing space. And on the right side, you probably recognize that's me. I'm responsible for markets in Germany and heading our environmental brokerage proposition. And you can reach me via the email there to discuss if you are interested to any of the solutions, how to access the market to purchase and cover your EUA demand. And with these words, I like to close and hand over back to Christian.
Thank you, Martin, for your presentation. Many thanks for that. And I am now happy to hand over to ACT Financial Solutions. Dario, over to you.
Thank you very much, Christian. Thank you very much. Happy to present us and our solutions here as well today. I'd like to immediately go to the next slide for a quick introduction of the company. ACT Group has been trading carbon and related products in the energy sector for more than 15 years now. We have a global presence with 5 offices from New York, Paris, Amsterdam, Shanghai, and Singapore, to 500 employees, of which about 300 are consultative traders who will help guide you through various environmental and sustainability challenges. Specifically, we're trading EUAs from our MiFID regulated, financially regulated entity, ACT Financial Solutions, of which I'm also a manager in the carbon sector. Our main markets are the renewable energy markets, the emissions markets, energy efficiency markets, and specifically interesting also, we have a fully vertically integrated fuel department, which means that we are procuring feedstocks, blending them in Italy and distributing them through the Mediterranean and ARA, setting up bunkering facilities also in Singapore. So we have the ability to supply biofuels via bunkering services, but more to that later. Next slide, please, already. Yes, wonderful. So as a energy trading house in environmental focus, we have extensive knowledge of the EUA market. I believe it's very important to know that procurement should always be done with a consultant in the back, especially if it is a market that you haven't been exposed to before. We have, as part of our day-to-day business, constant updates regarding market movements, regarding legislative changes, as have been mentioned earlier in this presentation, that can drive the markets up and down very, very quickly. Our extensive knowledge within the environmental sector also leads to a lot of contact to the environmental ministries and the emissions authorities for the last 15 years. So if it would be the DEST or the NEA or the Spanish Emissions Authority, we have contacts there and we can guide through the process of setting up EU ETS registry accounts. We have a large network that can guide through the MRV plan as well, setting up monitoring plans, emissions reports, etc. And we believe that staying on top of the market in a new environment such as the EU ETS for the maritime industry is crucial. We are happy to consult with procurement strategies and options and highlight what the biggest other players are doing. We've been serving the power segment within Europe for, as I said, many, many years, and can relay the best or most applicable procurement strategies. So if we move one more slide forward. Yes, wonderful. We have obviously access to the basic procurement options. Our spot settlement has been proven for the last 15 years. We can settle any transaction within 48 hours. And we also have access to forwards and futures. We provide credit lines to various players. We trade roughly 2 million EUAs a week. And we're happy to fit you into the budget and potentially into our strategy discussions. We also structure more complex derivative solutions with call and put options and combinations thereof. So the basic procurement options are fully open, and we're more than happy to discuss how to apply them to your specific business situation. Next slide, please. Very interesting also that together with the EEX, since the last November, we're offering primary auction access as an intermediary. We've set up a little bit of a special solution here to take out counterparty risk on both sides. So we've created a fully separated entity, the Custody Foundation, which can obviously safeguard payments similar to an escrow account and also hold EUAs in your name. Interesting is also that we have been we had a look how the difference between primary and secondary markets in terms of prices have been playing out in 2022. So that we can say that for the first 175 auctions in the year 2022, we've actually seen a price that is 1% lower compared to the settlement price in the primary auctions. So it is very interesting to take this into account as well, and we're more than happy to give further information about that. Next slide already, please. Yes, we're also aware of many operational challenges that are facing our new maritime clientele, such as been mentioned earlier in the presentation, who actually has to fulfill the compliance obligation. It's usually not as easy as that, but it can often be the same company who is doing the MRV. So often ship management companies, who will suffer from penalties. That will be the companies that are being blocked from entering EU ports after 2 years of non-obligation with the EU ETS, so the ship owners. However, who has to foot the bill? It's the ship operators, right? So all these complexities within the maritime sector have led to problems in the understanding of the chain of responsibility. We have been engaging with BIMCO and various environmental ministries in order to see and discuss these issues together with our counterparties in the maritime sector. So we're happy to set up these kind of meetings as well. And once again, we've created our custody accounts, right? The Custody Foundation, which is a fully separated entity, can hold EUAs in the name of various ship owners or ship operators, and then supply those when that time comes to the relevant authorities. And we're more than happy to set up further calls and further information about that. Keeping time in mind, let's move on to my last point. Yes, that is optimizing your obligation with biofuels. So as I said, we have a fully vertically integrated fuel supply in-house. Our biofuels have been crafted specifically for maritime use, so we can blend them and save your emissions. Because biofuels are seen as a zero-emission fuel, it can often be favorable, especially in the ARA region, to use biofuels instead of paying for EUAs, which means we overall decrease your EUA demand. And last slide. Yes. So our full biofuel chain is ICC certified. It can lead to significant carbon reductions. We have blended these fuels specifically to ship owners' needs. We have already had around 1,500 trials with large shipping and maritime companies. And I'm more than happy to schedule a follow-up with our fuels department, who is always available for further calls. I believe that leads me to the end of it. If we look at the last slide with my contact details, yes, please reach out to us at any time with the email address maritime@actcommodities.com. We have a team of 25 consultants always ready for further information on any of the mentioned topics. And then we have 10 other consultants for the fuels that might be interesting. Thank you very much for your attention. And with that, I hand it off back to Steffen from EEX.
Thank you, Dario. So I'm happy to provide a little summary and also summarize the trading benefits again. So what we have learned today or discussed today. So we have first studied the political framework. So why it is required for certain market participants to get active. So I think you don't have to worry, there's still some time to get prepared. We have discussed instruments to purchase allowances through different channels and options, and how price risks can address differently. I think we are also happy to discuss this as well as the political topics also individually. If you're interested, just let us know. So, and we have also explained ways to access carbon markets directly at EEX, but also indirectly through our partners, ABN and ACT. So, and why do we think we are an important partner to support your business as important stakeholder in the EU ETS? As mentioned at the beginning, though, we have already a strong foothold in the shipping segment, shipping derivatives. You might be already connected, and you could just add EU ETS products to your portfolio if you like. We are the EU ETS primary market auction platform for many years now, have a strong experience there, and provide also important reference to the carbon market as this platform operator. As alternative, we also provide hedging opportunities. So if you prefer futures over spot, different options are available to hedge your carbon price risk for the next couple of years, if you like. We are really a truly global company with a global team, and also account managers from all over Europe and over the globe. Yeah. So as you have part of a global industry, we support this also through our organization. Yeah. And what I've learned over the last couple of years here at EEX, that we have also a strong commitment to develop the carbon markets worldwide as a company, but also together with our partners. So I've showed you earlier this big map with the different markets we're offering. So we as a company have contributed here to the implementation of the EU ETS, but also through the implementation of other markets here globally. Yeah. And we have been in touch with this with a number of public authorities, with stakeholders from all over the globe, and have helped them to implement locally emission trading schemes. We have introduced markets on our exchange, have been in touch with stakeholders from all over the globe from the industry. And really our team in the different departments here at the exchange, at the clearinghouse, taking care of the delivery financially, physically, and also our partners connected to our business are really committed to develop carbon markets worldwide. So, and as we develop our markets not alone, but together with our clients and partners, and you will be part of this network, we would like to invite you to actively participate in this journey, yeah? And maybe not only as trading participant, but also as an important stakeholder, providing feedback to drive market development. Yeah, could be ETS, but could also be other markets. Yeah. And for this, of course, you're free, and we are happy to take any questions you have to this. So contact us, please. I mean, EEX could be ABN, ACT, and the partners we have here in the call anytime. Or also you can ask questions now in the Q&A session, which will Christian moderate. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan. That concludes more or less our presentations. Thank you to all speakers. You will see here on that slide also our contact details if you have a question later on. But now we have a Q&A session, and I'm happy to read through the questions and allocate them towards the team and the speaker who can then answer your questions. So let me start with the first question. How would you draw up the next steps and timeline for guidelines on how shipping companies should set up accounts? Yeah, Ellen, do you mind to take over this question?
Yeah, I can definitely do this. I'm assuming if we're talking about indications on setting up accounts, that we're talking about registry accounts here. And that's indeed a very good question and an important one as well, because as a basis, every shipping company will need a holding account in the registry, because this is the type of accounts from which you, in the end, in September every year, surrender allowances for your compliance. And in terms of timeline, this will be detailed in the registry regulation, exactly what the type of account is for maritime operators, which will be reviewed in the coming months. I don't have a very specific day on when a draft will be published by the European Commission on this, but it seems to be logical that this could be in the next months. And then, of course, as a shipping company, you'll have to set up your accounts with your national authority. So already contacting this authority in due time is important. And then before February 2024, so it can also be earlier, the European Commission will publish a list with all shipping companies and their national authority who have currently already reported. So that's also maybe an important timeline, an important deadline. But of course, there's no need to wait for that list before you actually start contacting your national authority. So yeah, maybe that in terms of next steps and the timings that we already have for the accounts.
Thank you, Ellen. Then I will read loud the next question. Would 30 September be the new compliance date for all of EU ETS or for shipping sector only? Maybe Ellen, you can take this question as well.
Yeah, so that's for the whole current EU ETS. So that moves from April to September for every sector covered by the EU ETS. For the ETS 2, that will be May, but for shipping and the current ETS, September. Yeah.
Great, thanks. And the next question is, if shipping companies can purchase EUAs in an auction, what could be the benefit to transact via a bank like ABN or other intermediaries? Maybe I can take this question. It is a difficult question, to be honest, and that is, you are exposed to these questions right now. And just to be honest, there is, of course, advantages on both sides, yeah, and disadvantages as well, yeah. And it is really an individual decision to be made and to decide which way to go. There is, as I said on slide 10, I think, I've shown you some of the criteria I would look on if I had to decide on the access option. There's aspects of fees and amount of certificates, the effort you would like to take to access the market, and so on and so forth. There is very much differences. And I think all the options that are available right now have, of course, their relevance and their purpose of existence. So not only due to that, we have not only presented us, but also our intermediaries that we know of right now, ABN and ACT. They have, of course, all great services next to ours. And yeah, you should look on the criteria and decide on your individual case. Okay, I will then read through the next question. What are the most important criteria to select an intermediary for EUA trading? Anything else than price? Yeah, I mean, that is what I said right now. On slide 10, we have spoken about some of those criteria, like effort you would like to take, the required amount you have annually to purchase or procure, KYC criteria, sensitivity to block cash in positions, and so on and so forth. Yeah, clearing and union registry points. That is really a very individual question you have to take, and we are happy, and also ABN and ACT is happy to guide you through these questions and help you with your case. Yeah. Okay. Next question will be, will all compliance buyers need to register with union registry, or they can pick another registry? And secondly, how are the spot EUA prices defined on the secondary market? Ellen, another question for you, maybe. Can you take over?
Yeah, I can take definitely the first one. So will all companies have to register in the union registry? Yes. Because there is only the union registry. At the very start of the EU ETS, there were 28 back then, national registries, but those are now united in the union registry. But there's still some leftover from these national approaches, in the sense that you have to register with your national authority. But it's just one registry where you have to register with your individual country. For that one. Then how are prices determined in the spot markets? Well, through continuous trading, but maybe that's a question that Stefan or anyone else would also like to shed some more light on.
Could you please repeat the question, Ellen? Sorry.
Was how are prices formed in the secondary EUA spot markets?
Price forms in terms of
how they are calculated. Maybe I can step in. That's not a problem at all.
Okay.
The secondary market, as you may know, is a continuously traded market, and that between 8 and 18 on CET time zone. And shortly before the closing of the contract, we will have a trading window in which we really look into the trading behavior of the order book and try to find out or calculate the average price there based on traded prices and transactions, orders visible there, or if that is not visible and not existent, we will have also other options to look on the general market levels at that time, and that will then be the process to calculate the settlement price also for the EUA spot, and that is comparable and comparable to other markets, but also to other exchanges. Okay, maybe I read loud the next question, which is: from which size or amount of EUAs needed per year is access of futures market necessary or recommended compared to just auction access? Oh, that is a difficult question because the required amount is not set, as a fixed amount, yeah, and it is really an amount that is required to be calculated on each individual case. Yeah, every company may have a different size and is maybe willing to accept more effort to take to access the market, or is maybe more reluctant to, and reluctant to access the market in depth, and would like to take rather services or a service partner to act in the market and save some time there, but accept maybe a different price to that. So it's a very difficult question that I, from the exchange perspective, can't really answer. Yeah, but of course there is a certain amount for every potential client here. And what I know is that the admission process at the exchange is surely not an easy task, and may therefore also make other options very viable for you. Please have a look on the webinar presentations today. You see all the very helpful information there in the way to choose for an option to access the market. Anyone, another speaker would like to add to this, maybe? Yeah, Martin, I'm happy to have you here.
Yes, just a quick add-on. So of course, futures, of course, so the larger your carbon demand will be, I think that the more feasible is that you look into the opportunities futures with the physical settlement offers you. But of course, like Christian indicated, it takes some effort on your side. So if you are directly exposed to futures, you have the subject of initial margin you need to provide. You are subject to daily margining, so you need to provide daily availability of funding in order to satisfy the margin calls. You need to be, from your internal accounting, ready to digest futures and the performance of futures in your accounting setup. And of course, it requires a bit of a trading approach and creating own trading intelligence at your company. So, like I said, futures deliver good opportunities, but you need to be conceptually and operationally ready in order to digest them. And like to hand back to you, Christian.
Thanks, Martin. Many thanks for your additions. Then I will take the next question or read it. That is the UK participating in the new scheme? Maybe that is a question for Stefan. Would you like to answer this question, Stefan?
Yeah. The UK is not directly participating in the scheme due to Brexit, but companies or ships coming to Europe and traveling away are basically all liable under the scheme, and therefore basically all international companies having transfers to Europe and going away from Europe are liable under the scheme. Yeah.
Very good. Many thanks, Stefan. The next question is, how does the EEX prevent large companies from buying up all the EUAs and then reselling them at a higher price? Yeah, that is a difficult question as well. I think EEX is not limiting or dictating the activities of our members. That is fully up to them to decide how many certificates they buy and how they act at the markets, as long as they follow the rules we set in publicly available codes of conduct and rule books. And so it's everyone to decide on oneself how to act at the market and how to purchase the required allowances. Yeah. Okay. Next question. You're currently only offering in-person trainings in German. Are you planning to offer these in English as well? As far as I know, we have also offerings of trainings in English language. Yeah, that is always published on our website. There is a certain schedule you can look through. Some of the trainings are available also in English and also in person in different European cities. Yeah, so please have a look on the EEX website. There's a training section where you can look up where the next public training events take place. And of course, get in touch with our training team. They are happy to be there in person at your premises and do a bespoke and individual training at your premises. Okay. Let's take the next question, which is, can a non-shipping company also register a registry account? Ellen, is that something for you? Can take over?
Yeah, short answer, yes. A non-shipping company can also register for a registry account, but it won't be a holding account, which is for compliance companies, but a trading account. But just a different type of account, but yes, that should be possible.
Okay, many thanks. Another question is, can you touch up on lot size for spot future trades, as a lot of shipping players will need to trade smaller lots than the typical 1,000 EUAs? Dario, would you mind to take this question?
More than happy to, of course. Hi. So we've had this question come up from a couple of interested players in the maritime sector already. Specifically, we've started a collaboration with various fuel supplying companies, bunkering companies, who sell their bunkering lots together with the EUA promise. And it breaks down into uneven amounts, into smaller amounts. And that is not possible via the exchange, but via the intermediaries, right? So besides the potentially easier onboarding, we have also the opportunity to give smaller quotes, uneven volumes, and we can trace those volumes with TM codes. So we also have obviously front-facing, email confirmations, automated confirmations that you can then assign the lots to specific contracts that have been sold to the end users.
Many thanks, Dario. That is very helpful. Many thanks for the questions already submitted, and I think in respect of the time, as we are already over the time, I would like to invite everyone to reach out to the teams. We have provided the contact details within the webinar, and reach out to us with your still open questions. And I would like to conclude now the Q&A part here, but before I conclude the entire webinar, please allow me to share some closing words. With today, there will be a shipping ETS specific landing page on the EEX website under Markets and Environmentals. And later on, you will also find there information about intermediaries. Feel free to check it out later on if you want. Beyond that, the speakers today and the broader EEX and IncubEx carbon team will be attending the eWorld next week in Essen, Germany. And we would be very delighted to get in touch with you there. And as I said at the top of the webinar, today's session of the webinar has been recorded. It will be available on our EEX Group YouTube channel from tomorrow onwards, so please feel free to replay it. Finally, I just like to thank all our speakers, Ellen, Stefan, Martin, and Dario, for a really informative session. And I thank you to everybody who has tuned in today and submitted questions. And if you have any remaining questions, get in touch with us via the contact details provided in the webinar. And with that, I would like to conclude today's session. Thanks again for your time and have a great rest of day.